It's me, Gaba Ghoul life, welcome. It's me, Gaba Ghoul life, welcome. It's me, Gaba Ghoul life, welcome. It's me, Gaba Ghoul life, welcome.
That's my opinion!
To the series, I am Gaba Ghoul. I am your hostess with the mostest. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take a moment to like, subscribe, and turn those notifications on so when the other episodes drop in this series, you can follow along, leave your comments, engage. If you're not engaging, this whole vulnerable moment and sharing these things about my life don't mean anything, because I really want everyone to stop seeing people as issues or conflicting issues, or you believe that and I believe that. No, you have an experience. Share your experience. Some of our experiences are triggering for some, maybe hard to hear for others, but they're still our experiences. So I want to hear, what's it like being you where you are? On this episode, we're going to talk about mental health awareness, behavioral health awareness. We're going to talk about the ins and outs of my life and what I've experienced and my unique perspective. Like I said, I hope that you will sit down and share what it's like being you and where you live and what your experiences are. Women, I apologize. I cannot speak through the lens of being a lady. Even as a non-binary person, I did grow up as a male. I was treated like a male. I presented as a male, and everything that I experienced with manlyhood came from my dad, the male perspective, the macho-ness of being a man. Which, let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about the men. Hi. Hello. Straight men, gay men, any kind of man. Hi. I want to talk to you. I want to talk about the social norms. I want to talk about the social norms that we learned as young men growing up and how we needed to be emotionally strong. I remember my dad once, several times actually, I was crying and he said to me, "I'll give you something to cry about." And in that moment, I was like, why am I crying? And I was crying because I had fallen. I was hurt and I needed some nurturing. And my dad avoided that because that would show vulnerability or downplay that. And I'm not trying to dog on my dad. It was just from man, to his child, to his boy. That's what we're taught as young men, to be a leader, but to show the least amount of emotions possible, unless they're laughter or strength. Y'all, we've experienced some childhood trauma. We sure have. We've all lived a childhood experience where maybe it's not as nice. Maybe it's not as pretty. Maybe our relationships to our parents look differently than everybody else. I want to talk about my experience, and hopefully you'll sound off below what it's like being you. You see, to talk about mental health awareness, we have to talk about how, as men, we can present in many different ways, but we don't call it mental health. We don't call it needing assistance. We just see aggression and violence as products of who we are. And, our high-risk behaviors like binge drinking or thrill-seeking, substance use, physical fatigue, just by being so obsessive and calculated and controlling. Those things, we need to let go. We need to address them. We need to just step back and recognize that it's part of who we are as an experience. And to change that, I had to learn how to feed my femininity and be okay with it and love it, and also be okay with all the different things that make up who I am. And I'm more than just, a person that was born into the male body. I am more than a diagnosis of anxiety, of depression, PTSD, bipolar 2. I am a person who have lived an experience in and out of the community-based mental health system, both as a patient and as a provider. And I want to share with you what it's like being where I am, here in Phoenix, Arizona, and what's it like experiencing the ups and downs, physically, mentally, spiritually, with myself. And I hope that my vulnerability will at some point spark a conversation within your own family about mental illness, about your family's history of mental illness, about how you might not experience the bubblies, the happies, and even the enjoyment that you imagine life to exist as. You see, I want to take you down my road. I'm going to take you down a journey, and I want you to take off your judgmental hat, your bias hat, everything. I want you just to set that aside for now. If you'd like to continue this episode, please follow our full episodes on YouTube. We would love to have you watch that and participate, as some of these can be a little bit longer. Gentlemen, buckle up. Ladies, sound out below what it's like being your badass self. Gentlemen, did you know that between the ages of 16 and 25, there's a lot that can happen in our mind, in our brain? And don't take my word for it. I want you to go research and find credible sources on this. But we can actually have a mental breakdown at any time between those ages, 16 to 25. And one of those mental breakdowns that could experience is schizophrenia. And it could just come out of nowhere or out of a moment of stress. It could be from a breakup, it could be from brain injury, sports. Yeah, it could be from sports. Can you imagine that? Being slushed around a little bit and then coming back with that PTSD and be like, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Yes, mental health is not clear cut. There's not an exact reason why things happen. When things happen, the idea is for us to address it and for us to sit in that moment and be able to process those changes and say, I don't got it. It's not a weakness. It's not a burden. To say I don't got it and that you need help just means that you've reached your limit of knowledge, and reaching out to someone that may have more information than you can only provide you with hope and help you overcome and be able to be a better person for yourself, your work environment, your family, the people around you. And I hope as I share this story, you'll see the fun, you'll see the light, you'll see the joy, you'll see the strength, the resilience of who I am today, because it took a lot of work, daily work, y'all. Mental health is daily work. If you give up a day, you better get back on that train, because enough days of not addressing your mental health can lead to many different things. And in my case, I thought I was just fine at 25. I thought I was perfect, just drinking and having a good time and enjoying myself at 25. I didn't know that if you stayed up all night, if you worked at the club and third shift, it could really affect your mental health. And to throw everything on top of it, at the time I had a very abusive relationship, both in the art of abusing drugs and in the art of physical violence and emotional violence. And I'll take you back to the year of 2011. Oh my gosh, that's like 13 years ago. Just think about what you're doing 13 years ago. And this is my first experience into the reasons why I may need some help. And I had no idea where to even begin to look. So in 2011, I found out that I was HIV positive. Actually, I found out that I had AIDS. And for those of you like, oh, shock, what is that? Well, let me educate you. Just pull it back. AIDS means you have 200 T cells or less. That's simply just meaning that the lower you get to zero means you don't have an immune system. Without an immune system, you can't fight off infection and really do much of anything. And that's a very scary situation for anyone to be in, to not have an immune system. When I found out that I had AIDS, I had 23 T cells. That's right, 23 T cells. I was losing weight. I had all these symptoms, and I was just so scared for my life, because at the time, a med student didn't have any empathy, didn't have any compassion, and he was the one that told me about my status. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know who could provide me with information as to what's next. I just literally went in for a regular exam, and I found out that I was HIV positive. And I was in shock, just like you are if you have a mental breakdown. You're in shock. You don't know what to do. Some people freeze. Some people lash out. This experience has allowed me to not only educate people about being undetectable and what that means. For those that don't know, I am undetectable now, years later, and I'm about 500 T cells. So I've really come a long way, especially since I wasn't able to drink tap water, eat certain foods, be out during certain windy days. There's a lot of things that could have made me sick, and I had to avoid all of those. And I don't want that to happen to anybody. I want people to take care of their body, and I want them to have a sound mind and not feel like they have to be so sheltered, but they can be more free thinkers, and they don't have to be in toxic relationships because they can address when somebody isn't good for them. And I think, men, you have the strength to change the society. Hear me out. I know you're enemy number one right now, but you have the ability to change society. Your collective thoughts can change how we see life, how we see different races, how we see disease, how we see and treat people who maybe haven't had an upbringing like yourself. And no, it doesn't make them gay or dirty or clean or any of these other things that are said as a derogatory term towards somebody who's of the queerness. But you can use words of visibility and vulnerability. And you can use science of the brain and the body to help with lifelong longevity and happiness. And you can live in moments of uncomfortable. You can live in uncomfortability. But eventually, you gotta get out of there. You gotta recognize that there's more to life. And when I found out that I was HIV positive, I broke down. I was literally on the kitchen floor crying. I wanted to unalive myself. And in that moment, I started to hear voices. Never heard anything in my whole entire life, and I started to hear voices. That same day, I had taken one of the HIV medications. I'm not going to say the name, but when I took that medication, I guess I had an allergic reaction to it, and it caused to have a psychosis effect for my mind. And let me just tell you, in that moment, reality didn't exist. I was on the floor crying. I broke down. I swear to God, I heard my family, my mom, my parents, my siblings say the most dangerous, demeaning, derogatory vibes I've ever heard. And I know that they were in Illinois, and I know that I'm in my apartment and they're not here with me. But over and over and over again, day after day, hearing these voices just really crushed my soul. And then I told somebody about it. And when I told somebody about it, the information wasn't received in a way that was comforting. It was received as like, oh crap, now we have to get you help because there's something wrong. And I became very scared and very fearful, and I became terrified that something was happening to me. So I got swept up in the community clinics, though the free clinics or the low-cost clinics did really help with providing pills. They provided vocational training. They provided transportation. They provided blood tests. They really were able to help in ways that I had no knowledge or resource to even begin to know where to start. The problem is, when you tell people you have voices, they put you on pills. And I was put on heavy doses of medication so bad that my face started to droop. I started having shaking moments like Parkinson's. I had dry mouth like crazy, blurry vision, drowsy, weight gain and loss, and I thought this was just normal. Like, yeah, everybody has all these things that happen as soon as they have a mental break. It's fine. I thought this was just normal. Like, yeah, everybody has all these things that happen as soon as they have a mental break. It's fine. But it's not how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work for you and with you and allow the system to allow you to lead. Do I think everybody is in the same mental capacity? No. And sometimes being court ordered is different than what I'm talking about right now. I have deep respect for people who work in community mental health care clinics. I myself, when I got out of college, I worked for a community mental health clinic. So not only was I a patient at one time, which I will tell more about that experience and what being a patient was like, but I got to work as a practitioner, helping patients who missed their medication doses. And I had to go out in my own car, pick them up, and bring them back to the clinic to have them receive their court-ordered injections. And so in that moment, I got to see the other side of the coin. Not only did I experience as a patient, but also I got to see as a provider, as somebody who worked within inside the mental health care system. And I know that all of this put me in survivor mode. I put my head down, I did the work, I showed up. I was literally fighting for my life with both AIDS and also with now this whole new thing I had no idea about. I was put on those SSRIs so that I could learn to be a better advocate for myself. I never once said, hey, why is my face drooping? Or, hey, when I take this medication, I fall asleep within 2 seconds. And what this clinic provided me was a very good gay therapist. Yeah, they assigned me a very good gay therapist. He was so good and so attentive that he really helped me file with the state the paperwork needed to be deemed Title 19, which is SMI, severely mentally ill. Now, being labeled SMI allowed for so many resources to be opened up to me that wasn't afforded to other people. Some of those things were having a case manager, accessible to all kinds of therapies like EMDR, CBT, DBT, trauma focused. Also, your mental health meds were 100% covered. Yeah, 100% covered. I did attend their work vocational training. I thought that was underwhelming. And also being able to work with therapists, I got to understand a little bit more about myself, how I process information, and got to really drudge all that trauma out. And that was covered. I got approved. And I'm not saying right now in this moment that I'm SMI, but I definitely have the tools that allow me to be as strong as possible, to be as encouraged as possible. It wasn't from the clinic, it's because I put in the work. And at this clinic, I've had 5 psychiatrists over my course, and they've left. Some of them, the best one left after a year. Yeah, she was there a year and then she left. And I've had over just like the last 3 years at this new clinic, I've had 5 new case managers. Why is that? Why is that? Let's put a pin in that. Why is it that I've had 5 case managers, my psychiatrist continually changes? Is it because the population causes burnout? Maybe. Is it because our state gave our SMI contract to the lowest bidder and they are unable to retain great employees? Probably. Remember when I got out of college, I was making $16 an hour with a master's degree. Yeah. Remember I told you I worked at the community clinic? Master's degree, $16. That's insane. Nobody can live on that. And so if it's high demand, high burnout, and low pay, you're not going to have people that want to stay. And actually, for me, the reverse is more important. In mental health, you need consistency, especially over the most vulnerable populations. Consistency amongst the caregivers, consistency amongst the providers, because when you see familiar faces, you're able to let the guard down. Otherwise, if you see new faces over and over again, and in my case, each case manager that I had to have a home visit, they had to do an assessment, I had to fill out all these paperwork over and over again, and I was like, you're not going to last but 3 or 4 months and I'm going to have somebody new. Why are you doing this? And in the SMI or the community mental health clinic, that consistency amongst providers is so important. It helps people really say how they feel. It provides a nurturing space for people to feel as best as they can, and to provide the tools necessary to overcome that. Sometimes it's providing a gym membership. They gave me a year gym membership, 2-year gym membership, LA Fitness, and I used it. I ran because I knew that when you exercise is the only time that your body creates new neurons in your brain, which I want to feel happy. I want new neurons. I want to feel like I'm actually not somebody who is super depressed or experiencing these voices. In this clinic that I was originally assigned to, which by the way, I've been to 3 different clinics in the last since 2011. So you do the math. And I stopped going because that provider wouldn't listen to me. When I finally got to a point where I was advocating for myself and I was like, this isn't what people experience. I shouldn't have this issue with concentration. I shouldn't feel shaky, like I'm having Parkinson's. I shouldn't feel constant dry mouth and being unable to control my eye twitching. That's not what I should be doing. And and I asked the provider, I said, can you just start weaning me off so I can just see what I'm like without this in my system? And they were absolutely not for that. And so I did it the unhealthy way. And I'm not suggesting that you do this. By all means, do it with a provider. I had to wean myself off and get my head clear and be like, what is actually happening? Once I did that, I realized I didn't have the voices. I realized that maybe it was from the medication, a drug, a reaction. There could have been all different kinds of things. I just know that where I am today, I am not that person that was on the kitchen floor crying. I'm not that person. I've done years of therapy. I've worked on my mental health every single day. And now I'm trying to find the right medication regimen and a provider that listens to me. And it took me a while, and I found somebody, and I was able to transfer to another clinic. She listened to me. Though I wish that she wouldn't question everything I said, which I would imagine in a mental health care system or a SMI system, you have to try to see if someone's trying to lie to you or not. Instead of taking the word for it, I guess it's a common behavior. I didn't experience it, but she does question a lot of the things that I ask her. And I'm glad about 3 years ago, she started treating me for ADHD, and it changed my whole life. I felt like every 80% of things became clear. I didn't feel like it was just so much at all times. It felt like taking in those horse blinders and bringing them in so that I could see what's in front of me. I would say it worked 70-80% of the time. And I really connected with that provider. And I was like, I know that there's something off with my diagnosis because of the way that the medication originally worked for me or didn't work for me. And so I know this is a very privileged moment, but I went and took a cognitive test, a 6-hour cognitive test, 5-hour cognitive test, 1-hour personality test. And it cost a lot of money, but I paid out of pocket because it would tell me how my brain processes information. It would tell me all kinds of things that I've been wanting to know about my mind that I was never given because I didn't really understand what I was thinking at the time or what life was providing for me. I was just so busy surviving. I was the lowest of my low, and I didn't want to waste another day being that low. I didn't want to feel so ugly about myself or that I didn't love myself the way that I do today. We have pain, we have sorrow, we have loss, we have envy, we have hope, we have encouragement, we have so many different things that describe who we are. And it's up to us to figure out how we can maintain the best parts of ourselves and not ignore the areas that have caused turmoil, chaos, loss, detachment, all the things that I'm sure some of you have experienced. I know I have. Look, I tell you all these things not to make you feel sad or judgmental about my story. Trust me, there's a lot more to the story, like working in the state hospital, working with drug and alcohol rehab individuals. But my story is not unique. My story is just simply me not having the tools necessary to know better. It's me recognizing that we all can work on our mental health. We all can be better at communicating. we all can take a step back and release in healthier manners. The journey that I have been on has been emotional, but emotional vulnerability will take us everywhere. Share your feelings. Share the days that maybe you just don't got it. That's okay. Get back on the horse. I'm not going to use cliche sayings because I want you to look at you as the version of greatness. If you close your eyes and you think if you had everything that you ever wanted, what you would look like, what your life would be like, what your feelings to that life would be like, and go for it. Achieve it, but never take a step back in recharging your mind. Mental health awareness is simply that, awareness. If you're not aware of your shortcomings, of the things that maybe aren't as pretty sometimes, you're not aware, which means you don't have the ability to put energy and effort and focus into making active changes. Remember the first thing I said at first? It's every single day. You don't get a break on your mental health because you carry your brain around with you. You carry your trauma around with you. You carry your life experiences around with you. You carry what you've been told and taught around with you. So that makes it your power, your concerns to attend to. It makes it your life. And if your life is okay being flat and going down, then that's wonderful. I'm not talking to you. If you're somebody that wants to progressively get higher and better and more spiritual and more founded in greatness, I'm talking to you. And my women who are listening, talking to you. You women provide the right examples of what greatness should be, what nurturing should feel like, and what it's like to live in a cohabitation with fairness and equity. And I hope some of you men will take those characteristics, the reasons why you fell in love with your women. If you're gay, I want you to look at the most gentle, feminine, soft man, and I want you to see somebody who is standing in their purpose and their light, and they're unapologetically gray, because you are that person to somebody else. I want you to find your local clinics. I want you to get an assessment. I want you to ask questions with your friends on who they're currently seeing. Therapy isn't for everybody. I've been in DBT for 5 months, and it is draining. You rip out all those band-aids. You relearn all the emotional things, and it's never ending. Then I'm going to do EMDR. And prior to this, I did therapy for 5 years. The person that helped me with the application for being SMI, yeah, that person, I was with that person for 5 years. And I processed all of that. Almost dying, being alone, being abused by partners, being abused when I grew up. Things come back. You're a person with these deep down experiences that live in your body. And until they come up to the surface, they're just buried. Doesn't mean they don't exist. And you're not a weak person for wanting to work through the things that maybe keep you up at night. Maybe the things that you worry about. Maybe the things that cause PTSD to you. The answer is simple. Never stop loving yourself in the way that you weren't nurtured as a child. Never stop coddling, promising the masculine in you to come out of you, but in a peaceful, more pliable, more presentable form. That means listen to your intuition. It means listen to your partners when they say, "Why are you like this? I've always been that way." No. That's not an answer anymore. I'll find out. Thank you for pointing it out. Thank you for caring about me. And ideally, as you go along this journey, you become better at it. And you don't sit in the sadness for so long. Or at least in my experience. Thank you for tuning into this series. Mental health is such a complicated personal journey. The only negative thing about mental health is when you don't address it. And that includes grief, that includes worry, anxiety, that includes financial pain, that includes being able to provide for yourself or not. All these things bring up emotions and feelings inside your body. Take a moment, breathe, hold yourself, and tell yourself it's going to be okay. You know what's right for you. No longer ignoring it. You know what's right for you. Don't you dare ignore it any further. You got this. And men, you're going to change the world. You have to. You have the privilege, you have the leadership skills, and you must soften everything that you've ever been taught and take care of yourself. Because these women out here need you. But they don't need you to take care of them. They need you to walk side by side with them. Not be 10 steps ahead or take control, but collectively give. And that means giving to yourself and recognizing when you don't have it and being able to say that. That's okay. Practice, not perfection. This has been our mental health awareness episode. If you'd like to hear more about mental health stories, please comment below. If you yourself have anything to add, please join the conversation. I don't want it to be about me. I just want to share these stories so that you feel encouraged to be vulnerable. It can be hard and be scary, but if someone uses your vulnerability against you, it's something about them and their weak mind. That was never your energy in the first place. Continue to be, and we'll talk soon. Until another episode, I'm Gaba Ghoul.